स्वामी जी आप अनम्यूट करके स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं। अनम्यूट कर दी।
Namaste and good evening. It is rightly said by philosophers that all over the world it's extremely difficult to find anyone living in true happiness. The poor and the rich are both unhappy in their own ways. Many a time we hear somebody, I'm very happy here, or I was so happy when I lived in Chennai. I think I will be happy if I get that position, if I get that opportunity. So people say they are happy, but everyone knows that to say I am happy or I was happy and so on is not in the fullest sense of the term. What do we mean by not in the fullest sense? You get a coveted job and you say, I'm so happy I got this job. Does it mean you are happy 24 hours of the day? Does it mean you are happy continuously for even a couple of hours? Sometimes it may seem so, but the truth is, this mind of ours is highly capable of raising some doubt, some apprehension. Let's say somebody made a lot of money. Yes, you see him in a party that he may throw to all his friends. You may see him smiling away. But we know very well that even as he smiles away and enjoying the company of friends who have come to congratulate him, there is a lurking fear in him. What will be the tax implications now of the money I have got? And will it have a negative impact on some of my relationships? Will some of my friends who were so good to me all these days turn envious? Will some enemies plan to do something wicked against me? Will some new laws of the government take away a good chunk of my newly earned wealth? So on and so forth. No one is blessed enough to have pure, unadulterated happiness all along. Some philosopher very nicely said, in this world all are unhappy. The poor are uncomfortably unhappy. The rich are comfortably unhappy. The rich are comfortably, meaning in living in air-conditioned house, working in air-conditioned office space, with a whole lot of amenities, conveniences, etc. Yeah, they have all that comfort, but they too live in fear. The young are unhappy. The young have fear. They have anxiety about whether they will get a good job or how their career will be in years to come. And the old ones, even the most successful ones among the old, have their own regrets, remembering some mistakes they had committed some years ago, remembering, recalling some wrong judgments, some wrong choices that they had made. Alas, I need not go on and on in this way. Summarily, the human mind is all the time in some form of conflict. Should I have done it that way instead of this way? Should I have 10 years ago, 20 years ago, made a different choice? Where did I go wrong? And so on. Therefore, this evening's topic is about trying to understand living in conflict. Why do we live in conflict? Very few look at it in a certain depth. Most people understand conflict to be the product or the result of some particular issues. Somebody says, I am in terrible conflict because my own brother deceived me and took away some land which should have been mine. Our father had left behind a will, and I should have got that much of land, but this brother of mine, wicked fellow, deceived me. And now if I go to the court, we don't know how many years it will take, and so on and so forth. So he thinks that losing some land was the or is the cause of conflict, turmoil, discontent, etc. Somebody else has conflict over some pleasure, some power. Somebody else has a conflict about his own self-worth. He looks down at himself. I am not as talented as others. I wish I was gifted with some extraordinary skill. I am not so good looking as others. I wish I was more handsome. So on and so forth. The people of the so-called low caste are often seen to be cursing their fate. Because we are born in this low caste, we are all the time discriminated against. And people in the high caste also complain. There is so much of reservation now in education, in jobs, in this and that, and this reservation should have gone after 10 years of India becoming a republic. Other day, somebody, a high caste person, sent to me a message where I don't know the authenticity of it, whether Dr. Ambedkar had really said it, but there was this WhatsApp message with a picture of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and a quote. The quote, which needs to be verified, says, now Dr. Ambedkar said, it seems, the day somebody from tribal community becomes the president of India, we should abolish all reservation in our country. So this high caste person who sent the message says, now Srimati Draupadi Murmu is a tribal woman. She has become the president. Therefore, we eliminate all this reservation for the so-called low caste or economically backward or other backward classes, a scheduled tribe, scheduled caste, etc. He argues. So high caste people have their own conflict. In this country of ours, India, Hindus have their own insecurity. Factual or imagined is another question. Muslims have their own insecurity. A former vice president of the country made a statement after stepping down that Muslims are no more safe in this country. And there are Hindus who say, if there is one community who is not safe, it is we Hindus. We are all the time subjected to unfair or violent treatment and so on. I'm giving just examples how everybody has conflict of some kind or the other. Now, coming to the crux of the matter, I don't want to speak like a politician. I don't want to speak like a social scientist. I am neither a social scientist nor a politician. I am exploring life. Perhaps to some extent you may say I am speaking like a philosopher, for philosophy means love of truth. Sophia means truth, philo means love. So you and I, to some extent, can be called students of philosophy. Sri Krishnamurti never liked to be described as a philosopher because he is right. Whatever originally the word philosopher might have meant, the way the word philosopher is used in today's society is somebody who talks some high stuff, probably with not much connection with real life. And many other connotations have gathered around the word philosopher, philosophy, and so on. No wonder a lot of or majority of so-called bright students don't want to go for a course in philosophy. They want to go for medicine, engineering, chartered accountancy, and a lot of new subjects also have come these days. A girl whom I know in Bengaluru, from Bangalore she has gone all the way to some university in Haryana, Jindal University or Munjal University or Ashoka University. There are some much sought after universities which have come up in the last 10 years or 15 years. This girl has gone there, and I do not remember the exact word, but it is something about hedge funding and so on. How huge capital, big chunks of money that rich people may have can be invested, can be protected, can be used in such a way that it grows and does not decay. So there is some word, capital markets or something. My own background has not been finance, and one subject which I always find hard to understand is this field of finance. So in the question answer session, please don't ask me, Swamiji, tell me what is hedge fund. I will run to the hedge of any property. Fence, hedge means fence. I know some words. Hedge fund, capital market. Namaste. I don't know those things. But I gave an example of newer top subjects. Right after 12th grade, girls and boys want to do nowadays law, there again, international law, environmental law. Olden days, even just to go for law was something that made us raise our eyebrows, especially young girls, suppose say, Appa, Dad, Nana, I want to do law. That was very surprising in olden days. Today, they not only do law, then they want to do environmental law. Anyway, so we say philosopher and philosophy is not much valued in this mad, conditioned society. If a philosopher makes a lot of money, then they respect that philosopher. See, Sir Radhakrishnan, Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, he didn't make money so much. He was a philosopher. He wrote many books on philosophy. He taught philosophy in Kolkata. He became Vice Chancellor of Banaras Hindu University. Okay, people respected him to some extent. But when he became the Vice President and then the President of India, many people said, well, studying philosophy can be good sometimes. Philosophy became more respectable because Radhakrishnan became President of India and was received with great respect around the world. Anyway, coming back, I said I am perhaps speaking as a philosopher. Krishnaji did not like to be called a philosopher. I explained already. I don't mind being called a philosopher, but leaving that aside, philosophically speaking, that is where we are into this matter. What is the reason that we have conflict? We are coming now to the core of the topic. A bit late, sorry. Really speaking, when we stand apart from our own thoughts and emotions, when we are able to observe our thought flow, when we are able to look at our conflict, if we are able to look at our turmoil very dispassionately without any bias, we realize that at a certain depth of the matter, it is all generated by a certain obsession that you and I have with ourselves. We are so obsessed with the selfiness. Suppose newspaper reports me as a failure. Suppose I was an entrepreneur. I invested crores and crores into a certain project, and newspapers reported that putting my name, so and so has invested so many thousands of crores and a huge factory will come up, it will generate employment, and announcing that they would have made a hero of me, let's say in 2018, but down the road for various reasons, 2021, I closed that factory and I have been dragged into court. I could not pay salaries to all the people I employed. Let us say the newspaper today says, putting my name again, so and so has been a great failure. Again, to quickly mention, maybe I should not mention much of such things, but to quickly mention, yesterday I got a WhatsApp message showing a certain man in jail. Some police are standing by his side and says, do you recognize this man? As I read that WhatsApp message, I said, I don't. In my own mind, of course, nobody was physically there to ask me. Then it said, this man looking so sad without properly shaving his beard or mustache he is no other than the former owner of Jet Airways. At one time, as the owner, as the head, as the chairman, as the founder of Jet Airways, Naresh Goyal was so much envied. But today, that message said he is in jail. I dare say this because I verified through internet. I don't know whether today he is in jail, but he indeed went to jail The Enforcement Directorate, ED, had found lot of irregularities in his financial dealings. Apparently, he had done something very wrong with regard to foreign currency, foreign investment, foreign money, and so on. Now, you and I, leave Naresh Goyal aside, we are not here to judge him. But the example was given by me to say, suppose newspapers praise me on one day, I feel so happy. Newspapers put me in bad light another day. He is such a failure. He has lost all credibility. Now he is talking of committing suicide. Doesn't want to live anymore. He is most depressed person in the world today, etc. Suppose such things are reported in newspapers, in magazines, in the social media and so on, and I see it. What will happen to me? I will feel really very negative. Oh, where I was at one time, where I have come now. So please examine. I am not here to tell stories, but look at the sentences. Where I was, at height, at such heights. I was in limelight, one remembers. And where I am now, nobody is coming near me. Nobody wants to have a selfie with me. Nobody wants my autograph. Nobody wants to be my friend anymore in this world. Where have I come? In these sentences, now see, there is this I and some judgment about I, my value, my self esteem. And what is all that after all? Suppose you and I are poor today, we were rich one day. Most of the cases we have enough to eat and drink. Most of the cases we have a place to stay in. We have basic necessities taken care of. But the memory of how at one time I had 5 bedroom houses in Bombay, Kolkata, Delhi, and Chennai. Today, I don't have any property of my own. I am in a rented place. Alas! So such thoughts come. This is, on one hand, the mischief of memories. On the other, various conditionings, various judgments, various conclusions as per which I want to see myself in a certain way. That is exactly what is called the self created by thought, the self built by memories, the self which is a product of programming, which is the outcome of various influences. This little self, SELF, and coming to the last part of my presentation, we wonder how under the sun we can deal with this. All of us go through this. All of us go through a certain activity of thought where the self is either shown to be hopeless, a failure, etc., or shown to be successful, riding high on a wave. Thought is doing it. And what can we do about it? First of all, we should not be so hung up with doing. We are so hung up with doing. Stop doing, start watching. Just watch. Watch the movement of thought as a whole, holistically, holistic observation. Normally, we don't observe outside or inside holistically. Therefore, I quote from Krishnaji, if one can observe holistically, observe the whole movement of life as one, conflict with its destructive energy not only ceases, but out of that observation comes a totally new approach to life. Public Talk number 5 in Mumbai in 1982. What a beautiful insight Krishnaji shares in that talk he delivered in Mumbai 1982. If you observe the whole movement of life as one, don't be caught, don't be stuck in I, me, and my. I am today so poor. All my classmates are having 5-bedroom bungalows, some of them by Juhu Beach, some of them Malabar Hill, somebody in Bombay cries. Whereas I used to live in all those great places. Now I have moved away to suburbs where land is poor, etc. I am like this, they are like that, they are like this, I am like that. Again and again, comparing and making a very enviable picture of others, making a despicable picture of myself on some ground with some criteria. Wait a minute. Why are you so stuck with I, how good I am, how bad I am? For 2 minutes, can you go out? Front of your house, there are some tulsi plants. Go out to the front yard. Smell the tulsi leaves. Look at a couple of other plants which your wife has so lovingly raised or grown in the front yard. Look at those flowers. Look at the sky. Look at some butterflies. All that is included in a holistic watching of the whole of life. Life is not just what happens to this personality which you say this is me. Life is the sunrise in the morning, sunset in the evening. Life is the chirping of birds, even if there are not many around your house. Life is your sons, your daughters, your wives, your life is life of all of us. Why are you always talking about look at me, look at me, look at me? People have better things to do than looking at you all the time. But if you have somebody who is ready to listen, I will say this and conclude. If somebody is ready to listen, you will go on and on and on. You or I or any of us, And all that we have got to say is, ah, I am like this. Once in a while proud, I do agree, but more often unhappy, dissatisfied, complaining, blaming our stars, blaming X or Y. This I call an obsession with this I, me, and my. Somebody goes up the stage and receives a prize. Rather than appreciating and applauding him, suppose my mind says, I never got this opportunity to go up the stage like this. Ah, how unhappy, how unfortunate I have been. This I. So, this obsession with the I, which narrows down our observation. In the holistic observation, you stand apart from the self. There's a certain intelligence which notices the undue importance given to this I, to the self. And as we give more importance, the self gets more strengthened. The self gets more and more nourished and nurtured by the attention, not in the right sense, not in the healthy sense, but the attention meaning you pamper this self. And the self is the cause of all conflict. If the self were to be exposed, if the self were to be made weak, so many situations which generated conflict in us will appear as, if I may use a colloquial word, fun. It is fun. I was rich, that was fun. Now I am poor, that is fun. A lot of people wanted to be in touch with me, that was fun of one kind. Now nobody wants to come and see me, this is fun of an youngsters use this word fun. It's fun of another kind. Ha ha. Come on. Like that, So that's 2 cents that I have shared. Thank you. Namaskar. Jain Sahab,
हर्षद सर, हर्षद सर wants to.
हर्षद सर को रिक्वेस्ट किया जा रहा है. तो योर माइक इज ऑफ सर. माइक्रोफोन ऑन कर लीजिए.
Please unmute it.
Yes,
अब ठीक
yes.
है.
Are you able to hear now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Swamiji. You have given many examples of the conflict which exists in human beings, like rich and poor, or Hindu and Muslim. So wherever there is a duality, conflict exists. And it exists at every level, international level, national level, within the family, everywhere, and within oneself also. So if we, and Swamiji, you talked about happiness, that as long as we have conflicts, happiness is not possible, and we may be happy once in a while, but as long as we don't understand the root cause of unhappiness, happiness is not possible. And the root cause of unhappiness is this conflict. And as you mentioned, Swamiji, this about obsession with the self. What I have understood from my meditation is that, and it, I think Krishna ji is responsible for my observation that everything, all our problems of psychological nature, it comes from thinking, and from thinking comes this sense of I or me or thinker. So in Krishnamurti's words, thought creates the thinker, and then thinker tries to change thought. So there is a duality, that this me and my thought, but actually this me or I or self or ego is actually a product of thought only. And to see that, one needs the freedom to look, because our life is mostly lived in thinking and feeling, and to see, to go right at the source of thinking, one needs freedom from thinking to look. So it is like being in an empty room, and if somebody enters the room, we know that somebody has entered. So similarly, a state of silent looking is required to see the beginning of a thought when it enters. So it requires this kind of ongoing, effortless awareness to, to look at whatever is happening, how unhappiness is created in our life at its source. So if somebody says something unpleasant to me and the anger is arising in me, then if the awareness is not there of this anger arising, I will react, I will become very violent, I will become angry. So our main problem is that we are not aware of what is happening within us. how thoughts are multiplying and this obsession with the self. And then it is like uh, we are stuck in the mud, and the more we try to come out from this mud, we sink deeper. So thinking is like that. I consider thinking is like sinking in the mud. So there is a freedom, and that freedom, this awareness, when it comes, when we are very, very curious to look not at the problems of the world, like the problem of Hindu and Muslim, but the problems which are arising in our own mind uh, at its root. If we can really see it, and to see it, we need to be silent, we need to be curious, honest, and with all energy looking. And even once it happens, that the mind stops and there is a sense of a different state of awareness without thinking, then that is the beginning. And then it can help us. Every time we find some free time, we can turn inward, look at our own mind very, very clearly, and then it really begins to change the quality of our life, our relationship with neighbors, with people, with in the family. Then we will listen very, very carefully what people are saying. We will observe very, very carefully. So I would say that we need to turn the attention inward in aloneness in the beginning, but later on, even with people around, we can observe, we can listen everything clearly. So the root cause of conflict in relationship within us or with people around or at every level is a duality. And the fundamental duality is the thinker and the thought. This thinker which is created by thought. So, and to see this, one needs the freedom to look. And that is lacking in most human beings, that they are not able to see the beginning of an anger or a fear. So in Krishnamurti teachings, I find that he is telling us to look at our own mind very, very clearly. And then, when there are no problems within us, we may be able to help somebody. Otherwise, it is the blind leading the blind. It happens like that. So fundamentally, we have to turn the attention inward, look very with curiosity, how the thoughts are arising without judging it, without saying it is good or bad. So fundamentally, it is a choiceless awareness. And when that awareness is awakened within us, life becomes much enjoyable and we can minimize many, many of our problems. Thank you very much.
Unmute yourself, Dinesh.
Are you able to hear me, sir?
Yes.
Yeah.
Already, light has been thrown by Swamiji as well as Harshad sir. But as usual, I would like to say in my own way what I understand by the conflict. First of all, what is the dictionary meaning? Dictionary meaning shows that conflict we can define in how many ways. A fight or an argument is conflict. A difference between two or more ideas, wishes, etc. To disagree with or to be different from somebody or something. A struggle or clash between opposite forces. Battle, disagreement controversy, a clash between perceptions. So dictionary meaning is dictionary meaning says these are all various types of conflicts. Now what JK has to say? JK says when the individual is in conflict within himself, he must inevitably create conflict without, and only he can bring about peace within himself, and so is the world, for he is the world. I'm just saying what JK is saying, and then I will also express my views. There are two facts. What he says, there are two facts. The fact of conflict with all its complicated struggles, and the fact of the mind demanding order, harmony, peace, beauty, love. Now, this is a very complex matter. The cause of our conflict is this everlasting duality of desire, the endless corridor of the opposites, creating envy, greed, ambition, aggression, fear, and all the rest of it. So, conflict cannot be denied. It is part of the human structure, and we use it as a means to an end. The end being the right environment for the individual. Ambition, conflict is the way of man, and it can be used either against him or for him. Through conflict, we move to greater things. He also says that through conflict, we move to the greater things. Because if conflict is not there, then we will become vegetable. So conflict also is used for the movement towards the greater things. Now, as Harshad sir said, JK says there must be conflict in the totality of consciousness as long as there is a thinker and thought. What is the root of conflict? As long as an experiencer who is experiencing, which means a division, a contradiction. Therefore, where there is contradiction, there must be conflict. So the totality of consciousness is, in a sense, conflict, because in it there is the observer and the observed. Now further he says about the choice. Choice. Where there is choice, there is contradiction between two desires. Means this also means there is no clarity. Where there is no clarity, where there is clarity, no choice. Only there will be action. I do not know means this he is talking in the reference to the worldly affairs. When I say I do not know, means no, I don't have clarity about the worldly affair. If I choose according to my motive means desires, becoming, etc., then it is conflict. If I am able to see clearly the truth of the situation or the fact, then there is no conflict. This is what, in a nutshell, what JK has to say. Now, what are my views? My views are outer conflict we cannot do much, as it is a question of relationship with world, and world is full of division and fragmentation. It is its nature. So we should be in a better position to tackle it if we see the total truth related to it and the situation. We can understand that conflict is always between two ideas or between two desires, etc. So it is a matter of a particular situation or a particular thing. So if we see the total truth related to it and the situation, which includes our role, our capability, our capacity, details of the outer situation, including complete information, knowledge, etc., as much as possible, knowing very well that such knowledge is always inadequate or incomplete. If you have a situation about which you are having complete knowledge, means thought is complete, then there is only action. Perception is action. JK has also said at one place that, of course, knowledge has got its own place when you are dealing with the worldly affairs. Inner conflict, the major problem is inner conflict. It is division between the observer and observed. What should be and what is. What should be and what is. Our inner ambitions, competitiveness, becoming, gaining, etc. Here we can remain in a state of neither accepting nor denying. This is also suggested by JK only at one place. Here we can remain in a state of neither accepting nor denying the conflict, nor denying the conflict. Understand the whole structure of conflict per se. He says one has to understand the whole structure of conflict per se and tackle it in a best possible way without disturbing our inner harmony, order, etc. Rather, this is automatic. Of course, rather this is automatic. If you understand the whole structure of conflict, then you can remain silent inside, inwardly, and then you can tackle it in the best possible way. But conflict will be there, but you can tackle it in a best possible way with the silent mind. Of course, for this one has to complete his homework of self-knowing and should be free from the conditioning. Right now, this is what I want to submit. Thank you.
Prasad sir. Prasad sir.
Namaste, sir. It's a great topic because conflict is very it is a normal state of our life. We all have conflicts in us and with so many people outside. Some conflicts seem to be inevitable in our normal life, like property, claims on property. You have a claim on property and there are other people who are claiming. And so you go to the court. There is a conflict. By reading Krishnaji, you don't escape these secular conflicts, conflicts which are in our daily life. But one thing is, even Krishnaji had a conflict with the Rajgopals. He also had to face the court proceedings. But I think there would be a difference between the way he faced and we normally face such events like court proceedings. Most probably, he never had any anger against the person with whom he was having court proceeding. There was no anger in his mind vis-a-vis Rajgopal. That is the approach which possibly we can all try to have. You may have a difference of opinion or a difference of interest with somebody, but we need not have any prejudice against him, anger against him, because the basic truth that we all share the same humanity has to be kept in mind always. And if we have love in our hearts, we won't have anger with whom we have differences. That is my understanding. And as so many people have said, like Harshadji and Swamiji, etc. The root cause of conflict is duality in life. We have so many types of dualities. We have Christians and Muslims and Hindus and things like that. Political parties divide us. And with all these differences, what we have to keep in mind is that we are all the same human stuff. When we realize that, and that is imprinted on our minds, then there is no anguish, there is no anger, and when you love a person, even when you have a conflict with him, I think the conflict somehow gets reduced or eliminated totally. Because that love possibly is infectious. It acts on your mind and on the mind of your opponent also, so-called opponent. Because actually, even when you are acting against him, you are not treating him as an opponent. In politics, we can have opponents, but not enemies. A seasoned statesman possibly has that automatically. He doesn't treat his opponent as an enemy. But when there is no culture in the politician, he treats the opponent as an automatic enemy. And so that duality, linguistic differences, all these things are there. They all can create conflict. But ultimately, as Harshadji has said, the basic conflict is in your heart, in yourself. The thinker and the thought, or the observer and the observed. When you observe with your background, not without that background. So that distorts your perception of the observed. So we never observe what is with a clear mind. That's very, very difficult to observe what is any prejudice or background or things like that. So ultimately, that inner conflict is there, but the basic approach should be one based on your perception of human unity of all life. All life is one, inclusive of the life of the animals. Once that gets imprinted on you, possibly you can escape the crudity of conflicts. Thank you, sir.
Pradeep Verma, sir.
Yes, sir. I think you are audible.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. Swamiji started with happiness. Are you happy? Yes, we are very happy. Something like that he started. And whatever case studies he talked for almost 35 minutes, they are all, our newspapers are full of such cases daily. How the youth are committing suicides, how politicians are fighting among. There's all sorts of conflicts you can see daily with different colors every day, full of conflicts. Then happiness, I see that we have to see the role of comfort zone in happiness. I'm sure, you see, and there is a lot of subjectivity associated with discomfort. A person may be, and the variation types are different. A person may be feeling happy in a cave. A person may be happy doing a corporate job and still unhappy or happy. All these, so a lot of subjectivity is there. We can't talk about news, seeing, reading different case studies, and that is conflict cannot be averaged. Each person is conditioned differently, so feels or faces conflict according to his conditionings. Then, of course, two main things Chidanandji also talked about: I, me, and mine. As long as these three are there, and that we are listening and we are seeing, we are being with that I, me, and mine. So that still it is working in me. So whether one can be without this, then in the ever-changing things inside and outside oneself, whether logically or rationally, there is any possibility of a state called without any psychological natural fluctuations. And these fluctuations are felt by a sensitive person. And everybody talks about one has to be very sensitive because it is related to your feeling, your empathy, your compassion. So whether what feeling, it means everything will come in heart, mind, everything will come with the feelings. Then you can't say it started with happiness and ended with something like fun. It's a fun. So whether this is practical in our lives, yes, but in a particular comfort zone. In a particular comfort zone, we have established in whether it is 2 room, 1 room, ashram, whatever it is, but the comfort is there, in which comfort to the extent that you are able to see things because you are peaceful with yourself. Then only you can see as things as they are, if at all. So, of course, what JK said, and all these things we can go on repeating so many times. That is conflict. The basis is conflict is between opposites, and how that opposite has its own opposite is also there. So, likewise, and the movement of mind and energy, if you see, without the polarities, without the negativities and positivities, whether there can be a movement and the flow, if its flow is restricted, then what happens? A sensitive person feels that. When he feels a lot of subjectivity is associated, according to what I feel, I can say about that. So this is, and because most of the times you will say, you might have read that JK said, if it is possible, if that is possible, suppose this is there. So these suppositions and imaginations leaves you where you are, leaves me where I am. Absolutely none of this verbatim, none of these words change because I am in a very different state. So utopian imagination, an ideal, that is the reason that all over, why everybody is having conflict, why everybody is suffering, and we justify that up to this level, conflict is very important, very important. You can't avoid it. Then we talk about outer conflict and inner conflict and mind and then heart. And you see the duality. Who is doing this in me? Outer and inner. So this is what I feel, friends. Nothing more to say because I have many more questions listening to everyone. These things, I didn't want to say anything, but these things came to my mind. These questions came to me listening to all the speakers. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Swamiji. Swamiji, do you want to say something? Chidanand Swamiji.
I am unmuting. Yeah. Just I have something to say. Yeah, it was wonderful to hear Pradeep ji, Dinesh ji, and before that, Prasad ji. Also, of course, in the beginning, Harshad ji. Many points had come up, but I would like to just share my thought. This insight that thinker also is a thought is of very great value. Thinker also is a thought. There is nothing like independent, standalone thinker. So many thoughts are rising, and a bunch of thoughts constitute the thinker, and other thoughts are what the thinker thinks. So, this is really very deceptive. We never imagine that we, the thinkers, are actually just another bundle of thoughts. Someone once said, imagine a beam of sunlight coming inside a room, maybe through the window. And in that beam of sunlight, you have so many dust particles dancing, and some of them are shining. So, thoughts are like those dust particles, he said. Analogies have a lot of limitations, sorry about it, but analogies sometimes give us a little lead. We should not remain stuck with the analogy. We should go into what the truth of the matter is. But think of this, there's a beam of sunlight and dust particles are dancing. All thoughts, including the thinker and what he thinks, the one who feels and what one feels, all of that are like dust particles. And the beam of sunlight is the comparison given in that analogy for the light of intelligence. You and I have a certain extraordinary capacity in us to be aware of the most basic mischief or deception going on in thoughts. And that ability to be aware is awakened. Therefore, the whole book is titled Awakening of Intelligence. The light of intelligence exposes, and that exposing it itself does something very powerful to the movement of thought. The self can fold up, the self can collapse, it seems. Thank you.
May I ask one question, please?
Yeah,
Swamiji, Swamiji, namaskar.
namaskar.
In awakening of intelligence, is there a role of questions?
It is a very good question. Yeah. It does play a secondary role, it seems to me. It has a role, questioning. So when there is intelligence awakened, the movement of thoughts undergoes certain changes automatically. And one of the changes that is evident in the movement of thought is where questions were not welcome before, now they are welcome. Because the intelligence facilitates, like a good group moderator in a group discussion, a good group moderator ensures that somebody who has something to say is allowed to say. Somebody who has something to ask is allowed to ask. The group moderator intervenes. If somebody else is dominating the discussion, the group moderator says, Thoda rukiye, just hold on. This madam has something to say. Look, this young man has something to ask. Let's give him a chance. Like that, awakening of intelligence facilitates a movement of thought where it is not just the mechanical flow. A question which was never asked before gets a certain opportunity. I could put it this way, I guess. Harshadji wants to say something.
Yeah. Are you able to hear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. This analogy which Swamiji gave about the dust particle, one particle in that thousands of dust particle will not know what is going on the other dust particle. But if you are outside the whole dust particle, you can see all these particles very, very clearly. So our problem is that we are not able to see thinking clearly because we are not outside the field of thinking. And that outside the field of thinking is what Krishnaji calls awareness or choiceless awareness or intelligence, which can see everything, all the thoughts as they are arising. So that is one thing that our main problem is having that state of mind which can look at the beginning of a thought. That means a silent awareness. And under the other thing which you are discussing about the questioning, Krishnamurti valued questioning a lot, but what what is the quality of the question? Is this question is very, very important, and when it is really very important, not intellectual question, then the mind really stops and begins to observe. So, like a question like "Who am I?" There is no answer. I cannot answer "Who am I?" So one has to be outside the field of this I, me thinking. That means in silent awareness, we can see everything clearly. And the problem of human beings is that they haven't got to that state of silent awareness where they can see the whole problem making machinery, which is thinking. And so we get carried away, obsession with this me, my power, my desire, my idea. And in a human being, sometimes a person may be very, very idealistic and he wants to achieve certain ideal like non-violence or something like that, freedom. But that can also cause conflict. The conflict between actuality and the ideal. So in Krishnamurti, what is beautiful is that don't have any ideal, but look at actually whatever is going on. If there is a anger or fear, is it possible to look at as it is without uh, positing the opposite of it, the freedom? So this I consider to be moving with what is, not what should be, because our conflicts are between what is and what should be, actual and the ideal. So this is the beauty in I find in Krishnamurti. But the difficulty is that to understand Krishnamurti, what he says about thinker and thought, one needs to be free. And so sometimes he says freedom is at the beginning, not at the end, after inquiry and dialogue, and not that, but beginning to see how the thoughts are moving. Okay, I will say enough thing. Thank you.
Harshad
Very
Bhai,
good.
I have
Yeah.
two
Yes,
simple
go on.
questions. May I ask?
You can
Yeah.
continue, please.
Yeah, thank you, sir. The state of awareness which you are talking about, in which and associated with the time, if everything changing every minute, everything, not minute is a big thing, everything is changing. Whether that state of awareness is a permanent state, it cannot be. It cannot be because associated with awareness, associated with something to be aware of. You see, awareness, the person who is aware knows. And talking about false, what JK talked about, false as false, truth as truth. You see, so it means that fellow has full knowledge, absolutely nowhere inside me, the complete knowledge. Then only there is a possibility of seeing things as they are, and the role of so-called polar opposites, existential, existing in all of us. Whether that awareness is always there, can be always there, I doubt very much. Harshad bhai, please.
Yeah, no, that awareness may not be a continuous, ongoing 24 hours, but there's a possibility of having it most of the time. And we can see the beginning when there is a dialogue or how people get carried away by their own thoughts and feelings. Like if you have seen how people have a debate on television, on politics or social issue, people are not listening to each other. They are carried away by their own opinions and ideas. So a kind of space can exist within us to listen clearly to what the people are saying and then respond intelligently is possible. But there is no thing like all the time being aware. There may be, because we sleep also, we are not uh, awake all the time. So what happens, we don't know. But I think all depends on what is our, what do we think that this is the most important thing in life, to be aware and see things clearly. And then it seems that our brain also begins to change. And then there's a different way of looking, like the way Krishnaji says, how do you look at a tree? How do you look at the face of your friend or husband or wife? A change can happen when we are really curious and passionate to look inward instead of trying to solve the problems of the world. We cannot solve the problems of the world. We cannot solve the problem of other human beings, but it is possible to look inside and see clearly. That is why I can say that it all depends on our passion, whether we consider this is the most important thing in our life instead of becoming rich and powerful and famous and all that. So our energy goes in becoming somebody, not in really looking at what we are, the being, real being, in silence. Okay, I'll say.
Any more question or comment from anybody? From 1 minute.
Prasadji wants, I think, to say something. Or Dinesh wants to say something.
Okay, go. I unmuted them. Yes, Prasad sir.
Whatever has been said today, have we noticed one thing since 3 years what we are doing, how our mind is operating? We are trying to see, the mind is trying to become mature by seeing the individual words. There are so many words we are using, and we are trying to mature ourselves, and we think that we will become mature. Say for example, how many words we use normally: fragmentation, division, isolation, solitude, order, insight, sensitivity, creativity, will, conditioning, energy, pleasure and pain principle, intelligence, silence, morality, ethics, what is and what should be, time and space, perception and thought, actual and reality, ideals, understanding and knowledge, awareness, learning, known and unknown. We have been repeating all these words since years, I should say. And what mind is doing in the process? It is trying to learn in its own way by trying to focus on the a particular word which is already it is not actuality, and it is already we are it is trying to learn with divisions or with fragmentations, and we think that we will be out of this what we can say, this trap, mind thinks that it will be out of this trap if it understands all these things. So basically, what is our aim? Our aim is to go out of this just by having um, the clarity about these words. But what we are doing, we are trying to move round and round, round and round, round and round, like that. What Harshad sir has given an example of. Always used to give an example of a mouse, or what. I think he used to give an example of mouse. So we are doing the same thing again and again, again and again. So we have to really see what how the mind is working, and if we can see this clearly, then perhaps there can be some other thing which can come into the picture. This is what I feel. Otherwise, we will keep on doing the same thing again and again, because we love to do this. What I have seen, we love to do repeat the words. We got in love with J. Krishnamurti, and we feel very much what we can say. We are normally pleased with the all lectures he has given, and we feel actual pleasure in it. That's what I think.
Prasad,
So we remain with that, and we
Prasad.
say that we know very much, and then we continue with it. So one has to see really clearly. Thank you.
Prasad sir.
Prasad bhai.
Sir, as Dinesh ji is saying just now, we are all lost in words. True, that is very true. We find enjoyment in reading Krishnaji's talks and all that. And after some time, we get used to all those words, that list of words which he has quoted. Yes, that is true. Ultimately, the root of conflict is ourself. Our self being our opinions. We are all opinionated. I have my opinion versus your opinion. You have your own opinion. There is, I think, in Sanskrit a word like kupastha manduk, a frog in a well, a narrow well. It can't see the waters outside the well. Like that, we have our tradition, our scholarship, our knowledge, our experience. All these are limiting factors. So, we are caught in this net of a narrow experience. And we can't escape that. So naturally, when I express my opinion versus your opinion, there is a conflict between us. Most of the time, it is a lack of generosity. We have no generosity. We may talk, we may quote all those words which Dinesh ji has listed. We may quote all of them. But in life, we have very little generosity. Our lack of generosity becomes evident when we see how we haggle with a fruit vendor or your helper, domestic helper, and things like that. This generosity comes when you realize the unity of man. And actually, yesterday I was seeing a series on human evolution in Netflix. Human evolution. The way we have evolved over millions of years, billions of years. From where have we started? I think Pradeep ji knows it much better than me because he is expert on genetics and all that. So from where have we evolved? It is so gratifying to realize that we have reached this stage at least. From where we have started, we have come to this stage of civilization, some polish, some culture. All this from that beginning, when you see your beginning and the way we have reached the present stage, you become quite kind towards yourself. You won't be harsh towards anybody or towards yourself. I think we have, and actually somebody was saying, if you see your place in the vast space of the universe, then also you become quite humble. You will have natural humility. And these are the things which we have to remember. And then we don't be harsh on ourselves. But at the same time, there is that danger of getting lost in words, We have to see the concept behind the word, the fact behind the word. And that needs some experience. Because when you read for the first time, Krishnaji, then what happens is you are trying to grasp the idea at the intellectual level. What is he conveying? Sometimes it is quite difficult to understand the concept behind the word. For example, I was reading something. He says somewhere, doing the what is. My God, what is doing the what is? How can you do what is? There are expressions like that. Sometimes you think he is contradicting himself when you read closely. He may not be contradicting himself. He is seeing the truth for that moment. He is not influenced by the truth which he saw yesterday. Because the truth is not something stationary. It is moving. And he is moving with the moving truth. So we have to see all these things. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, last word from Harshad sir. Last sentence from Harshad sir.
Okay, the last sentence is that the language which we are using is limited, and Krishnaji may be using the same language, same words for many, many years, but the state from which these words are coming is very important. And it seems to me that the words which Krishnaji used were coming from silence. But if we don't listen properly, then we will think that Krishnamurti is saying the same thing, and you can predict what Krishnamurti would say next because we are not listening. So language is limited and the insight is beyond language. So one has to be really silent and free from language to see things more clearly behind the word. So that is why Krishnaji asked, how do you look at a tree? How do you look at the face of your friend? So there is a different way of looking, not through language. Language is used only to express, and what is expressed is not what it is. Okay, thank you.
Time has come to 7:30. Gone past 7:30. So we will have to stop. Thanks all for participation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
everyone.
you.